Hey everyone, and welcome to the Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, more commonly known as the BOEC. My name is Kyle Calbett. I'm the ski program manager here, and I'm going to be your narrator for this Dryland Orientation training, which means that you are one of the lucky ones that gets to listen to my voice for the next 45 or so minutes. A few things about this training. We ended up making it into a video so that you could watch it on your own time, whenever works best for you. We will have a short quiz that you are sent a link to at the end, as well as a follow-up Zoom call that you'll get invited for, where we'll be able to answer any questions that you have and provide an opportunity for a lot of the new volunteers to meet each other and to meet some of our admin staff. While watching this video, feel free to take notes and write down any questions that you have, and don't be too worried about the quiz at the end. It's more so just so we can kind of make sure that people are actually watching it and that some of the information is sticking. Before moving into the presentation, I just want to thank all of you for being here. The BOEC can't do what we do without volunteers like y'all, so from all of us to you, thank you. So we will start off with a video that gives a good overview of the BOEC.
The BOEC, Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, is an organization devoted to bringing people into the outdoors that wouldn't otherwise come. We find your ability level so that you can enjoy the outdoors, no matter what that takes for us to adapt the experience. The BOEC was founded in 1976, and it was rooted in a program called Ski for Light, which is a blind skier program.
We wanted to create something like Outward Bound for people with disabilities. We're doing it here at Breckenridge and at Keystone. It just keeps growing.
Over 2,000 students per year come through the BOEC, and sure enough, 60% of our participants are return participants.
And I believe that it's life-changing for them and their families. We provide something that they would not necessarily get to experience.
Good, one step at a time.
I was a chef up here in the area and a river guide and a ski instructor, and I contracted a virus, got ill, and lost both of my legs. I didn't know if I could do the things that I had done before. What BOEC did for me was give me that confidence to go back and become a ski instructor again.
We are really pushing people to do as much as they can by themselves.
BOEC has given me freedom. It's given me more confidence in doing things that I thought with limited vision pretty much I couldn't do.
The thing that inspires me every day is that I just did it smile that, you know, everyone gets on their face when they go canoeing, when they go out on the ropes course and they get to the second level, when they go zipping down the zip line, or, you know, when they're out skiing and they're on that lesson and they make their first connected turns. It gives me goosebumps right now just talking about it.
The people that come here, they change your life in the most incredible way.
When you're finished with a day of volunteering, you just have this feeling that's magnificent.
Volunteering and serving the BOEC does the same thing for us that the school does for our students. It's transformative.
One of the core pieces of the BOEC is our internship program.
The BOEC definitely is not your typical internship. You get to actually be part of the experience and not just watching from the sidelines.
It allows me to do what I love every single day. It's a very challenging job, but also one of the most rewarding things that I have ever experienced.
We realized that if we started something like this and it served only Breckenridge, it would have a limited impact. But if we turned out interns, we could send them all over.
Got an email last week from a gal in Japan, who was one of our interns, started a new program in Japan for adaptive sport.
It's the family, it's the culture.
It's the adrenaline, it's the pushing the edge, it's the camaraderie, it's the trust building. All that comes together. That's what we serve, and that's our mission.
BOEC is, in essence, a program that changes people's lives.
To dive a little deeper, the mission of the BOEC is to expand the potential of people of all abilities through meaningful, educational, and inspiring outdoor activities. And that mission drives everything that we do. As mentioned in the video, the BOEC began in 1976 as a cross-country ski program, and downhill adaptive skiing was introduced at the BOEC in the early 80s in what would probably be considered a pretty questionable way by today's standards. It was basically putting people who were paralyzed into sleds, pulling them up the slopes a couple hundred yards, then letting them ski and sled down. Once the resort and mountain saw what we were doing, they thought it was cool and wanted to help figure out a way to get everyone on a chairlift. And from there, the rest is basically history. The BOEC has served as a big innovator in the adaptive ski industry, which is still progressing every year to get more and more people out sliding on snow. The BOEC is broken down into 4 main departments: the ski program, wilderness program, internship program, and volunteer program. We'll dive deeper into the ski and volunteer programs in a little bit, but jumping into our wilderness program, which is our summer operation, we provide a variety of activities, which include whitewater rafting, cycling, a challenge course, rock climbing, as well as multi-day programs, both out of our Scott Griffith Lodge and mobile camping trips. Moving on to our internship program, which is a key part of the BOEC. Typically, we have 13 summer interns and 15 winter interns. But this year we had to lower our capacity to 1 virtual intern over the summer, and this winter we're having 9 interns. Our interns commit for an entire season, their choice of summer or winter, and come from all different walks of life. Decent amount of them are college students who need an internship to graduate. Some, like myself, came after finishing up grad school, and others come to us after wanting a break from the corporate world. The majority of our paid staff and instructors were interns or volunteers at one point in time. Now we will move into talking about the ski program, which is the main reason you are here. We offer ski and snowboard lessons at Breckenridge, Keystone, and Copper Mountains, having offices at both our Breckenridge and Keystone locations. We work both with individuals and groups whom we've formed partnerships with over the years. And the folks that come and ski with us have a wide range of ability level and are looking to get out on the mountain. Some of the populations that we work with have traumatic brain injuries, are paralyzed, or have spinal cord injuries. Some folks have cognitive disabilities such as autism and Down syndrome. Others have multiple sclerosis, ALS, Parkinson's. The list really goes on and on. Last winter, even with our season stopping in mid-March, we were on pace to provide over 3,300 lessons for individuals and groups to ski, snowboard, or Nordic ski. This season, we were only offering half-day lessons, whereas in non-COVID years, we are able to offer full-day lessons. We're only doing half days this year to try to spread the love and get as many people out as possible. Each half-day lesson lasts 2.5 hours, with the morning lessons going from 9 a.m. to 11:30, and afternoon lessons going from 1 p.m. to 3:30. The prices range from $145 to $165 depending on the time of year, and that price includes a lift ticket, rental gear, as well as one-on-one instruction. We're able to keep our prices so low because we get lots of help from the Summit County community. Between Blue River Sports and Mountain Wave donating all ski and snowboard rentals to us, and the resort donating lift tickets for us to use. That allows us to offer a super affordable price, and on top of that, we also offer scholarships for students. As a volunteer, you may be assisting a lesson in a few different roles. Due to COVID restrictions, this year we are only putting volunteers on lessons that absolutely need them, whereas in the past, we've been able to get away with putting a volunteer on basically every lesson. One role you may serve in is to be the lead instructor. Now typically this one won't happen unless you've volunteered with us for a long time or you have lots of teaching experience from somewhere else. But as the lead instructor, you're in charge of teaching the student as well as in charge of things like risk management, progression, and timing of the lesson. Again, this one won't happen too often, and if you are ever asked to be the lead instructor, one of us on the BOEC staff will make sure to talk to you about it ahead of time. Another volunteer role is to be an assistant instructor. This is the most common volunteer role, where you'll be supporting the lead instructor in a variety of ways. You may be asked to help build strong rapport with students, to be an extra set of eyes, or potentially to help lift and load gear for some of our more gear-intensive lessons. As an assistant instructor, you may be asked to ski behind the student as an uphill assist, and we'll go over what that means in other trainings. Or you may also be asked to ski in front of the student so that they can follow you while the instructor is getting a better look at their technique. Another role that you may be in is what we call a ski buddy. This isn't necessarily an instructional lesson. It's a lesson where the student is completely independent and they more so just need support with directions and potentially for watching over our equipment. Going on a lesson with a ski buddy is also pretty rare, and in instances that you are asked to be a ski buddy, typically they're with students that have also skied with us for a long time and that we know extremely well. This season is going to look a lot different for everyone, volunteers included. Some of this stuff that we're about to go over should be outlined in the volunteer COVID video that was also sent out to you. But we're going to go over what a typical day as a volunteer looks like this season. Big caveat on the words typical day, as nothing is too typical anymore. And this year we're really asking if everyone can be extremely flexible. Between the resort and Summit County, things are changing on a daily basis for us, and we'll let you know when and if things change as soon as we know about them. As a volunteer, we're asking that everyone arrive at 8:45 a.m. to check in. If you're volunteering in Breckenridge, check in outside our back door under the Maggie deck. And if you're at Keystone, check in will be inside the Mountain House building, just outside of the BOEC door. At both places, there will be a table with a BOEC staff member conducting a symptom check. If you are sick, please don't come for your volunteer day. Just give us a call and leave a message if it's not during office hours, and please stay at home to rest. At both locations this year, we're asking volunteers to not enter our ski office and to show up to your check-in completely ready to go. Ideally, this means that you are dressed for the day, have already used the restroom, and have your boots on, especially since we won't really have much, if any, storage available for any of your belongings. As for the volunteer uniform, we ask that you please show up just looking clean and professional. If you have black ski pants, great, please wear those, but don't go out of your way just to buy any to volunteer with us. Our instructors wear lime green jackets and black ski pants as their uniforms, just so y'all know what those look like. During your on-hill training days, we'll give you a green volunteer bib. They'll be yours to hold on to for the season and give back to us at the end of the winter. Please bring this volunteer bib with you every time you do volunteer and wear it over your personal ski jacket. After you get checked in, the instructor that you're paired up with will come outside to meet you and give you an overview of your student and the lesson that you will be on. During that conversation, feel free to ask your instructor any questions about how they think you can best help and what they will need from you. Your instructor should then tell you what they need next from you. It might be helping them at the rental shop or potentially just waiting outside until the instructor and student come and meet you out there in a short amount of time. Then it's time to go ski or ride. Lessons with the BOEC use the ski school group line and not the private line. There are two different lines out there, so just keep an eye out for the group line rather than the private one. Once the morning lesson is over at 11:30 a.m., then you're on your own and you're free for lunch. Again, volunteers and students are not allowed to have lunch in our ski office this year, so come prepared with a lunch plan, whether that's pocket sandwiches, buying a pre-made lunch from the resort, going somewhere in town, or eating in your car, or whatever you would like to do. You will have about a little over an hour for lunch since the morning lesson ends at 11:30, and then we ask you to be back to the check-in table by 12:45 for your afternoon lesson. We're going to try to keep you matched up with the same instructor for the full day, but someone will let you know if that has to change for some reason. Then this whole process repeats for the afternoon, minus the symptom check, with afternoon lessons ending at 3:30 p.m. back at our ski office. The only exceptions to the time of 3:30 being the end time are sometimes some of our groups may have a different ending time, which your instructor will let you know about if that's the case. Once your lesson is over and your student and instructor have gone inside, feel free to set up your next volunteer day with Steven. If you aren't sure when you can come next, you can always just call or email us to set up your next day. Moving on, we have a few miscellaneous logistics to cover. First is that you must have your own health insurance to volunteer with us. As a volunteer, you do not receive workers' comp, so you are required to have your own insurance. Another thing that we have briefly touched upon is that there will be no inside or overnight storage for any of your personal equipment this year, due to a limited number of people being allowed inside and a lack of space inside of our office this year. Moving on to parking, at Breckenridge there's a handful of options. There are some pay-to-park lots, those being F lot, which is the closest to our office. There's the Beaver Run lot, as well as you can pay to park in town on some streets. There's free parking at both the ice rink and Airport Road. The ice rink is expected to fill up very quickly this year since the gondola lot is going to be closed for construction. So the best bet for free parking would probably be Airport Road. It is a little further away, but they do have shuttles that will take you around. And there are multiple free shuttles all around town that kind of help you get around. At Keystone, there's also a handful of pay-to-park lots. And the one exception to this is the River Run lot, which is free. This one, again, is a little further away from our Keystone office, so you will have to take a shuttle from the River Run lot to get to our office. Wherever you decide to park, please make sure you leave yourself enough time so that you can get to the check-in by 8:45 a.m. Next, if you are lucky, some students decide to tip their instructor and volunteer. If someone offers you money, I always recommend to take it. You're more than welcome to keep any tips, but please don't expect them. And lastly, helmets are required to be worn by all students, staff, and volunteers. If the dog in this picture can wear a helmet, so can you. We encourage you to bring your own helmet, but worst case, if you forget to bring yours, talk to us and we can let you borrow one of ours. Any day that you volunteer with us, we will give you a lift ticket to use for that day whenever you check in. Since we will give you a paper ticket, you do not have to make an online reservation with the resort for that day. The paper ticket kind of counts as that. The ticket that we give you is good for that entire day, so if during your lunch break you want to get a few laps in, feel free to go and do that with the ticket that we gave you. Please just make sure to take off your volunteer bib and store it in your pocket, and please don't wear that if you're just free skiing, not on the lesson. Biggest thing for you to remember is if you do have your own season pass, to not waste one of your reservation days to the resort for a day that you're volunteering with us, because we will provide you with a lift ticket for each day that you do volunteer. Next, we'll move on and talk about some paperwork. There are a few things that we need from you before you're able to volunteer each year. One is going to be a background check, which costs you $30 each season. We also need for you to sign our online waivers, as well as to update your profile online on our database. You should receive instructions and links on how to do each of these, and we're pretty excited about them because we're finally moving away from paperwork and joining the year 2020 of virtual documents. As for emergency paperwork, this is stuff that we have in our office that you would need to fill out if there's an incident on your lesson or if you get hurt. Incident reports are one of the documents, and they should be filled out whenever there's a collision with another person or object, whenever someone gets injured, whenever ski patrol is called, and when there is a near miss accident. The lead instructor on your lesson will tell you when you need to fill out an incident report and help you to fill it out. The form itself is pretty self-explanatory, and it asks you to recall the facts of what happened rather than what you think happened or placing blame or who you think was at fault or things like that. Incident reports don't mean that you're in trouble at all. For us, they help us to improve our risk management protocols and trainings. So we really value these incident reports so that we can learn from them. If you do happen to get hurt while you're on a BOEC lesson, one of our staff will accompany you to the Med Center, which is right in the plaza near where our office is located in Breckenridge. And they will bring the next document, which is called the physician's report. For this document, it's given to the doctor and they fill it out, and this document itself has information about your injury diagnosis, what the doctor recommends for treatment, and how to proceed from there. For any form that we need you to fill out, one of our staff will give it to you or tell you where it's located, and we'll answer any questions that you have about filling them out and make sure that you have filled them out completely and correctly. Before moving into some of our equipment and the different ways that we can get people out on the hill, we at least wanted to show you what the inside of our office looks like and explain what we have going on in here this year. We basically took out the majority of the furniture that we typically have in the office so that we could spread people out more. In non-COVID years, the walls are lined with a bunch of green cubbies that students can store their gear in and sit on. As you can see on the picture on the left, instead, now we have a bunch of colored taped boxes that have 2 chairs in it, 1 chair for the student and 1 for one guardian to also enter with them. Typically, this room is full of as many people as we can stuff in here on a given day, or as many lessons that we can do with the number of instructors that we have. But this year we've had to limit our capacity pretty drastically. The picture on the right is a picture of our main gear room that we keep all of our toys in. In here we store a bunch of our sit skis, which are kind of on the left side of that picture, some outriggers, sleds, tools, and other miscellaneous gear that we'll jump into in just a minute. As we mentioned earlier, included in the cost of a lesson with us is a student's ski or snowboard rentals. For ski rentals, we get those from Blue River Sports, and snowboards from Mountain Wave. This picture right here is a picture where it says ski rental. I know it's a little hard to see, but where it says ski rental, that's Blue River Sports, and Mountain Wave is a little more to the left side of the picture. Blue River and Mountain Wave donate all rentals to us, and they're a huge part of what we're able to provide to our students. We're still waiting to hear from them on some of their shop protocols for this season, and we'll update you on those as soon as we figure them out, or your instructor will kind of fill you in on those if they need your help at the rental shop. On the next slide, we're going to have a map kind of the surrounding areas and where these shops are located. And you may be asked to assist an instructor in taking a student to the rental shop to get gear or to return gear at the end of a lesson. Both Blue River and Mountain Wave have worked with us for years, and some of our staff have gone on to work at their shop, so we've formed a good partnership over the years. We definitely make sure to let them know how much we appreciate them, because we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we do without their help. So typically we would do a walkthrough tour of the area, but obviously that isn't happening currently, and since I don't have a drone, instead we're just going to use this satellite image to kind of explain the area surrounding the BOEC ski office. So we have labeled where a lot of the key places are that we use on a daily basis, but I'll also walk you through some of those. Highlighted here in purple up at the top of your screen, this road is South Park Avenue. And just off of Park, we have labeled where Blue River Sports and Mountain Wave are. If you're familiar with the Breckenridge area, Blue River and Mountain Wave are located right next to some restaurants like Mi Casa, Red's, as well as the Gravity House. Moving across the street where the majority of these buildings are located, this area is commonly referred to as the Village, and Maggie Pond is a great indicator as it's right next to our ski office. So if you ever aren't sure where to go, but you know where Maggie Pond is, that's great. Make your way towards Maggie Pond and you'll end up at our office. We are located right underneath Maggie Bar and Restaurant, real close to the Quicksilver chairlift on Peak 9. There are both elevators or stairs that you can take to get down to us, but up in kind of this main area right here that I'm coloring in purple is the main plaza area. And in here you'll find things like the Breck Med Center, as well as typically during the winter there are a couple food trucks there. There's usually a Greek one. I know this year there's also been a Jamaican one, and there are lots of other food options close by in the village if you do decide to go out to eat for lunch. In addition to those food trucks and Mikasa and Reds that we talked about earlier, we're also really close to Quandary Grill as well as Bold, and we aren't too far away from Main Street, and it's pretty easy to get over there to find some quick food options as well. Time permitting, we may be able to give a better in-person tour during one of our on-hill training days, but worst case, just ask someone from the BOEC to show you where a place is if you have any questions. Next, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the adaptive equipment that we have for our stand-up, sit-down, and snowboard lessons. This is just going to be an introduction into some of the equipment that we have, and by no means do we expect you to be an expert on these things by the time you show up for your first day, or even really throughout the rest of this season. We just want you to start getting an idea for the things that we have, how they're used, and potentially what folks that they could be good for. For one of your on-hill training days with us, you'll be able to choose between stand-up or sit-down techniques, and in those trainings you'll be able to go into much more detail about how to interact with some of this gear that we have for each of those, depending on which one of the two that you pick. Again, those won't be the only times that you have to learn about these things throughout the year, as on every lesson that you're on, you'll be able to learn about these things and ask questions with your instructor before the student gets there so that you're familiar with the equipment that might be used on your lesson. For our stand-up adaptive equipment, starting with the picture in the top left, we have an Edgy Wedgie. Now what this is as you can see, it's basically a rubber connector that attaches to the tip of each of the student's skis and helps them to maintain a better stance and width of their skis rather than allowing the skis to slide all over the place. Edgy wedgies are commonly used with some of our younger kids, and they do have a kind of size restriction or weight limit. If the student is too big, they can just rip the edgy wedgies and tear them. That's where we have just a regular, what we call tip retention device, which is basically a metal edgy wedgie that attaches to the tips of the skis as well. It's kind of hard to see, but in the picture in the middle labeled stand-up tethers, on the front of the student skis there is one of our metal tip retention devices, which we use for bigger kids and adults to help with the same thing, keeping a good stance and good width of the skis. On our metal tip retention devices, there are connection points on the outside of each of them that we can connect stand-up tethers. So again, this is that middle picture where the instructor can hold on to the tethers to help with speed control as well as help to initiate turns. Stand-up tethers could be used with students who either need some help kinesthetically to see what proper turns should feel like and look like, and sometimes they can be used as well with folks who don't have maybe the cognitive ability to know exactly when to turn or when to stop, and rather than having them hold on to an instructor's hand or hold on to something else, The stand-up tethers can leave their vision unblocked, and with just a little nudge from the instructor from behind with the tethers, the student can know when to turn, and the instructor can help them with that. Moving down to the bottom left corner, we have ski legs, which are also called sliders. These, you can basically picture a walker that has skis attached to the bottom of it. The sliders that we have are pretty customizable. You can adjust the height of them, you can adjust the angle of where the forearms go, and you can adjust the angle of the skis on them to make a different size wedge, basically, with the skis attached to that. The way that a student uses these is they rest their forearms in the forearm holders. The student has skis on their feet as well as the skis that are attached to the slider, and the instructor tethers the slider, similar to the picture in the middle here on this screen. But instead of the tethers being attached to the student skis, the tethers are attached to the actual slider themselves. For these sliders, we never take them off of green runs, and the goal with these is for students to use them as little as possible, and by use them I mean to lean on them as little as possible. And they're great for people who have maybe less leg strength or who get tired really quickly and need a little bit of extra stability. Moving to the picture on the bottom right of the screen, we have our stand-up outriggers. Now, these outriggers are kind of similar to crutches that would have skis on the bottom of them. So the girl using them here only has one leg, and so she has outriggers in both arms. This type of skiing is called three-track skiing because the one ski on her foot and the two skis on the outriggers leave 3 tracks in the snow. So just basic stand-up skiing we call 2-track. What she is doing with only one ski on her foot and 2 outriggers is called 3-track. Then there's also something called 4-tracking, which would be 2 skis on your feet and an outrigger in each hand, leaving 4 tracks in the snow. For people who do only ski on one leg, outriggers are almost always used. And for people who ski on 2 skis and use stand-up outriggers, that's typically people who have some endurance issues and need a little help with balance, but maybe not to the point that they would have to use one of our sliders that we have. So these stand-up outriggers can still provide some good balance and stability while giving the skier a little more independence. Some other tools that we have that we use are a bamboo pole, which you can basically just picture anywhere from 6 to 8 foot long pole that the student holds onto in the middle and the instructor and volunteer on either side to kind of help initiate turns and control speed, and you're kind of going down together as one big group. We also have hula hoops that we can use to create a little distance in between student and instructor rather than just holding hands. For our visually impaired skiers, we have bright orange bibs that say guide or blind skier. That way other people on the mountain know that we are working as a group with someone who has a visual impairment to try to give us a little bit more space. So as I said before, this is just a quick introduction to some of our stand-up adaptive pieces of equipment that we have. If you have any questions about any of these, feel free to ask them in our follow-up Zoom call that we're going to have. Otherwise, you'll learn a lot more about these either during your on-hill training day or on some of the lessons that you're on. And always feel free to ask your instructor questions on maybe why they're choosing to use a specific thing or what it helps with on that lesson. Next, we'll move into some of our adaptive sit-down equipment. This is really where, in the adaptive industry, the technology has taken off over the last handful of years. We'll start in the upper right-hand corner of the screen with our ski bikes. Now we have a few different models of these, and basically if you've never seen one before, just picture your regular road bike, but instead of two wheels on it, there is a ski attached on the front and the back, and the person riding on it either has two little skis on each of their feet, or some people, when they get a lot more advanced, prefer to actually just put their feet on to two little pegs that are on the front of the bike. Ski bikes don't get used as much in our office, but they can be really great for people who have some leg issues or maybe don't have the strength or endurance to stand up ski as much as they would like to. They're a great way to quickly get people out and kind of cruising around and sliding on snow in a quick and easy to learn way. So next we'll move into our bi-skis and mono skis. Now these are both pretty similar. Our bi-skis are on the left half of your screen and mono skis on the right. The big difference between these two, bi-ski has two skis underneath it, so bi meaning two skis underneath, and mono skis having just one ski underneath it. I'll first go into detail about bi skis and who they might be good for. Bi skis are really cool because they can be used 100% independently by our students, or they can be used by students relying 100% on an instructor to control it. We have a few different models of bi skis in our office that provides a wide range of adjustability depending on the student's needs and comfort levels and physical abilities. As shown in the picture in the bottom left, bi skis can be tethered, similar to our stand-up tethers from the previous screen. The majority of our bi ski lessons are tethered, which, again, similar to stand-up tethering, allows the instructor to help control speed and turn shape for the student. The instructor attaches the tethers directly to the back of the frame of the bi ski so that they can actually control the ski rather than just being pulled along like on a dog sled ride. Still looking at the picture in the bottom left of this screen, the student is using handheld outriggers. So similar to our stand-up ones, just a little bit shorter. And these outriggers, again, help with balance and steering. For bi skis, in addition to handheld outriggers, we also have fixed outriggers, which we use for people who don't have the ability to hold on to outriggers with their hands. With fixed outriggers, you can almost picture training wheels on a bike, and it's something that we can attach to the ski that comes out on both sides and has a little ski, basically just like training wheels on either side, to still provide extra stability for the student. Again, if they can't hold on to outriggers themselves, whether they just don't have the grip strength, whether they don't have arms, or whether they're paralyzed, we have the option and flexibility to use either of those options with bi skis. We use bi skis probably with the widest range of ability levels, since they can be used 100% independently by the student or 100% dependent on the instructor controlling them. So anyone from having a brain injury to being completely paralyzed to muscular dystrophy or other physical or cognitive impairments, we can pretty much get anyone in a bi ski and get them out skiing. Moving on to our mono skis, which are on the right half of this slide. Again, these have just one ski attached underneath, and the main difference between a mono ski and a bi ski is that with a mono ski, they are used completely independently by the student. This limits the type of students that can use monoskis to those that have good cognitive abilities as well as good core and upper body strength, since they must be controlling the ski completely on their own. Students using monoskis always use handheld outriggers, as this is the main way that they help themselves balance and steer. And they are never tethered. So whereas a biski is in the bottom left picture, the instructor can be attached to the back, the instructor will never tether a monoski for us. With both biskis and monoskis, the student always stays strapped into them. You can almost picture them like a wheelchair, just with skis attached to the bottom, so the student isn't getting in and out of the buckets of either of those. This even means that the student stays strapped in whenever they're getting on and off the chairlift. So if you are on one of these lessons, if you're comfortable with it, after some more of our training days, then one of your roles could be to help them actually load and unload the chairlift. And again, on both of these biskis and monoskis, the technology has really advanced over the last handful of years, and they're really cool pieces of equipment. They can be taken on basically any and all terrain, and the different models are made with different components. Some are much more high-end and have really high-end shocks and suspension systems, and can be taken on all types of terrain, going from the beginner slopes all the way up to advanced and expert terrain. All right, next we're moving into our adaptive snowboard equipment. This time we'll start in the bottom right of this slide, and it's not an actual piece of equipment, but one of the things or techniques that are used the most for teaching beginners how to snowboard is dancing, which is where the instructor and student are holding hands, and the instructor is helping to guide the student from toe edge to heel edge without them getting out of control. Moving to the picture that's on the far left is a rider bar. For this, basically you can picture a handlebar that's mounted directly onto the snowboard. With the rider bar, it gives the student something to hold on to for extra balance, but it also allows the instructor to help facilitate kind of the movement between toe edge and heel edge to provide that kinesthetic feel for the student. Similarly, in the top right, we have a snow wing, which is the one that kind of just looks like a giant football with a harness in the middle. So the student is actually in the harness in the middle, and similar to using a hula hoop for our stand-up skiing lessons, this allows the instructor to hold on to the snow wing to help guide through turns and control for speed, just without being too close to the student and potentially them getting tangled up and getting in the way of each other. Now, the snow wing isn't used a ton, as you can see, and as you can probably guess, it is a very large piece of equipment that can get somewhat tiring to basically hold up because of its size. But for the few times that it is used, it is pretty effective and useful. And then there's not a picture of it on here, but for our snowboard lessons, we can also tether those. So similar to stand-up tethering, we can attach those orange tethers to the snowboard. That way, again, the instructor can help facilitate turn initiation and help with controlling speed if the student isn't able to do that on their own. Congratulations, you did it. You made it to the end of the Dryland Orientation video. Next steps is we're going to have a Zoom chat where we'll all get to meet each other, or all the new volunteers will get to meet each other and some of our admin staff. And you'll be able to ask any questions that you might have had during this Dryland orientation. I just want to thank you so much for being here and for wanting to volunteer your time to the BOEC. We truly can't do what we do without the help of our volunteers. We wouldn't be able to have anywhere close to the impact that we are able to without y'all's help. So thank you so much for being here and for joining us this season. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we're excited to meet all of you soon.